Innovating Education Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.
In the current economic climate, having the right skills can make the difference between getting a job and having to continue looking. And in order to produce a workforce with the right skills, governments are increasingly turning to vocational training. In the UK, around 1 million young people aged 16 to 24 are not in employment, education or training. To tackle this problem, in 2010, the government established new vocational training opportunities for students as young as 14. Let's see how it's working.
Nestled in beautiful countryside, the English town of Huddersfield has been touched by a phenomenon lately, and it's becoming a real challenge for the educational system. In the UK today, 1 in 10 teenagers are opting to leave school at just 16. In doing so, they make up part of the NEET generation, those not in education, employment or training. Jade could have been one of them. A disconcerting scenario for her dad, Mike.
Whereas before she was sad and down and not as happy as she could be, you know. I believe that if you don't have some sort of education, then you're definitely not going to get anywhere in the jobs markets, you know.
One solution for Jade could be a studio school, a brand new educational concept that came about in 2010. Studio schools offer a mix of both academic and vocational skills and teach students in a more practical and project-based way. Specialists are tasked with nurturing pupils' individual talents, and in the case of Jade, that was fashion. Studio school-goers study English and maths, of course, but the main focus is to equip them with a business project or improve their CV. Personal coaches help them with that.
Personal coaching allows them to learn the art of self-reflection and to develop skills, the soft skills. I think that we're accelerating our students above other students in other colleges or other schools because we do try and get them to focus on those employability skills like communication, relating to others, enterprising skills, being able to apply your learning and to be able to think and to think logically and rationally.
For Jade, Studio School has transformed her outlook on life. After just a few months, she's already more confident about her future.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, and studio schools give me opportunities that before I never got a chance to do, so it's made me speak to my parents more about education and jobs.
One reason for Studio School's success could be the involvement of local entrepreneurs. Stephen Lothar is one of them. He owns a fashion factory in Huddersfield and provides regular interning opportunities for young people.
We need to give them the right tools to ensure that they will find that success. So I actually think there's no better time to give people as many tools as possible, so when they're in front of a prospective employer, that they have the best start, or maybe they want to start their own business.
The Studio School concept seems to have taken off in the UK. 13 studio schools are set to open their doors in 2014.
We would like to see all schools measured in terms of what happens 2 years after somebody's left school. Are they working? Are they in higher education? If they're working, how much are they earning? In 5 years' time, what's their health like? We want students to leave with skills, with qualifications and experience, which is really quite different from the conventional system.
In 2013, Studio Schools was a WISE Award finalist.
Vocational training is obviously one way of finding a job, but can academic studies also lead to employment? Or what about doing work experience and informal training alongside an academic education? Let's see how that works in Italy.
Last November, 500 students from Liguria and other Italian regions all boarded the La Superba ship, one of the world's biggest ferries. As part of a 3-day vocational guidance programme, they sailed from Genova to Palermo and back. Until recently, maritime professions didn't have a great reputation in Italy. Even top jobs at sea were just the plan B for students. But today, things are changing.
Maritime professions are mostly chosen in times of crisis because it is a hard job for very smart people.
Students were divided into 18 groups and trained by senior students from the academy. Training points were set up all around the ship. Experts were on board to inform students about education and training options at sea.
Maybe we're slowly recovering from the economic crisis. These students know that they won't go to university, they'll almost immediately find a job.
By visiting crew-only areas, students' curiosity is mixed with wonder, ambition, concern and hope. Some of them dream about a job ashore as coast guards or in port and cargo logistics. Officers-to-be will have to choose between a machine or a deck career, and others will opt for catering for thousands of people on big ships like this. Big decisions ahead for these teenagers. But for some, like 15-year-old Alexandro, it's too early to choose. On the Superba ship, Giuliano Givili, a psychologist and specialist in maritime career guidance, counselled a small group of students. Alexandro was among them.
Alessandro, you don't seem to be very convinced of a career at sea.
I would like it a lot, but what really scares me is leaving my family.
You're still young and things can change, but the main thing is you would have to be away for 2 months if you're on a ferry, 5 months for a cruise, and up to 6 for a cargo ship.
However, for 17-year-old Mikol from Trieste, family is her strongest motivation for embarking on a career at sea.
My granddad was an engineer and was at sea for 50 years. My uncle too. He was working on ships for 50 years, but always as second in command. I want to be a captain or a first deck officer on a cruise ship.
But back here on land, Mikol still has to go through her last vocational school year. Then she will apply for both the Navy and the shipping academies and try to get on board as soon as possible.
Now, what about training for people who are already employed? Can upgrading your skills improve your chances of moving up the ladder? What about vocational seminars, for example? Could going to them make a difference? Let's have a look in this report from Guatemala.
The place is Guatemala City. The occasion, the arrival of the president, Otto Fernando Pérez Molina. But it's not your usual press conference. Among this group of reporters, there are 12 European journalists. They're on a 4-day seminar organised by the European Journalist Centre, together with the European Commission.
Often you don't even know what's going on, you don't even have a picture in your mind, you're making up pictures in your mind and telling a story that doesn't even exist. So it's very important to go to the field and kind of see the real deal.
This seminar is part of an EJC programme that trains journalists in the most underdeveloped and remote parts of the world. Professional journalists become students again for a few days, and the experts they meet on the ground, they're teachers.
Even for print journalists, everything's multimedia now. Journalists need to be able to perceive and conceive more in a more visual way what's actually happening out in the field. So that's, I think, the important part of it. I also think it gives it more of the human face, the human side behind these development projects. You can't do that sitting in a newsroom. You can't.
Bart works in Poland. This is his very first time in Guatemala, a country where people have very limited access to health and education and are dealing with food insecurities on a daily basis.
It's very hard to imagine that 8,000 kilometers west there could be a country where people struggle with hunger, and it puts many things in the right proportion.
During the seminar, journalists are meant to strengthen their professional vocation. To do so, they meet locals and visit the poorest villages. They get to know some Guatemalan journalists who can be forced into hiding sometimes because of death threats.
They're learning about the media and how it functions in other countries, and the local journalists are not able to actually cover stories like this. There's too much violence, there's too many political problems, there's too much sensationalism going on in the media.
The programme will continue for the next few years. Next destination will be Africa and any other areas that receive European aid.
That's it for this week. What do you think of vocational education? Is it useful? Have you done it? And did it make a difference to your career? We look forward to hearing from you on our social media pages. Goodbye for now.
Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.